I have seen the future, and I love what I saw. It was a good place with much more social justice and compassion. Among the things that I saw, there was reality like this. Disabled people will have their own lobbyists. You would say, well, this is pretty radical. I would say it's much more than radical. It's already true. Because, for example, a citizen from Canada, Alet Mansky, is creating networks for helping hundreds and thousands of disabled people who feel isolation and desperation and loneliness because they have lost their caregivers, because the caregivers passed away. And he created networks of humans to help them. And also, for example, in India, Javed Abidi has been advocating all his life for the 60,000 or millions Indians with disabilities, helping them to be recognized by the law and to be offered jobs and economic options. But there is more in that future. You know, disabled people will be the best paid employees. You would say, well, this is pretty radical. I would say, more than radical. This is already possible. You know why? Because people have recognized that disabled people have super capacities, hyper capacities, extra capacities, like people with autism. You know, this guy in the middle of the picture, Torkild Sonne, a father from Denmark, he discovered through his autistic son that autistic people have a passion for detail. They are exceptional in analytic jobs, and they have a passion for perfection. And he discovered that they do fantastic work in software companies. So he now has created a business consultancy that gives jobs to autistic people all around the world in software companies. Or this doctor from Germany, Frank Hoffman, a gynecologist, what did he discover? He discovered that blind women are fantastic in doing female breast exploration to prevent cancer. You know why? Because a blind person has a developed sensibility, and they can detect the cancer much early and do a much better prevention. And now hundreds of blind women having a very important job in Germany. But there are more radical things that I've seen in the future, like this one. Toilet will be a very sexy topic. And you would say, well, this is very difficult to believe, and it is pretty radical. And it is very important. You know why? Because 2.5 million people in the world have no access to toilets at all. They do their necessities in the street with an incredible consequences in global health and number of deaths. But there is one guy, this guy, Jack Sim. He is there to do advocacy so that we talk about toilet. And to make us talk about toilet, he does things like this. To call the attention, he has created the Worldwide Toilet Day so that people remember that there is something like a toilet that is so important. What else I've seen in the future? I've seen supermarket for the poor. You would say, well, this is pretty radical. I would say, no, this is already existing in France, where this guy who is here talking an event like this is proving that he can bring very good food to very poor people through a list of solidarity shops who are able to work in maximum efficiency and perfect organization, and they are able to do much, much better prices. And then everyone will produce their own food, and it will be delicious. You would say, well, this is marginal. If you say that this is for everybody, it would be pretty radical. I would say it's not radical. It's already happening. Like in Ireland, you know, this Michael Kelly is explaining everybody in Ireland how they can grow their own delicious food. And he has all these gardeners going from place to place, from borough to borough, explain everybody how to do it. And he is moving this from something marginal for something mainstream. And also, listen, technology and forest will be friends. You would say this is pretty radical. I would say this is already happening because, for example, Adalberto Verissimo, a Brazilian citizen, in order to protect the Amazon, is using satellites to make sure that he's monitoring what happens in the forest. And he also using maps, technologically advanced maps, so that he can prevent a loss of trees and natural resources. And we can always say, in this future that I see, clean energy will be for the developing world. You would say, well, this is really radical. And I would say, it's not only radical, this is already happening. Look at this. This is a slum in India, and they have solar-powered light. How is this possible? Because this guy, a citizen from India, Harish Ande, has found a way to sell cheaply solar energy in India. And they have found the way to keep it in order. And he also found a way to make money being socially responsible. Isn't this incredibly fantastic? But there is more. You know, in the future that I see, startups creator will be 50 plus. You would say, come on, the startup creator is 20 years old and is a dropout from university. I would say, no. And you know why? Because people like Mark Friedman in US is creating networks with thousands of people, creating new jobs from people from 60 to 90. And also, Ralph Sanger, close by in Germany, is creating a network of consultants that help people 50 plus to create their own company. And there are many, many, many of them creating companies who are very successful. But there is more. In the future that I see, TV will make you smarter. You would say, how is that possible? This is almost impossible. And you're right. And you are totally right. But there is one incredible exception in India, because, you know, in the rural India, there are no schools. So how do these children learn to read? With television. Because this guy, Brij Kotari, has found such a simple solution to teach reading. He takes all these Bollywood songs, which people love, and he puts the subtitles in the same language. So people watch television, hours of these Bollywood things. They think they are having a great time, but what they are doing is learning to read their own language. Isn't that a simple, genius idea? And there are more things that I see in this future that I see. People will have more power than corporation. You would say, well, this is not easy to believe, but you know, this is easy to believe for one reason, and it is that this is already happening. Look at Will Byrne. Maybe some of you have heard about Will Byrne because he worked with Obama, helping him in this electoral campaign, and then he was offered to stay at the White House to work. And he said, no, I will not stay at the White House to work because I have something in my hands which is much more powerful, and it is the way people will control corporation. Do you know how people will control corporation? Purchasing together, organizing the purchasing of anything, products, services, car, energy, so that they can give success to the good companies and have unsuccessful the other company. Because every time we buy, we exercise a power on corporation. And if we buy all together, we exercise a huge power. The power of combined purchase. And Will Byrne is the biggest ambassador of this power. But there is more in this incredible future that I have seen. People will control politicians. You would say, no, come on. This is really radical. I would say it's more than radical. This is happening. Because you see, for example, Gregor Hackmack, one of the many, creating platform so that every citizen can ask questions to their elected representatives. And this is open to everybody. I can ask a question, you can ask a question to a specific politician, and he can stay silent, which is already an answer, or he or she can respond. And this is becoming a phenomenon because citizens are asking for responsibilities. And they're asking that the promises made during the electoral period are really fulfilled. But there is more. In my future, in this future, corrupt people will be exposed. Isn't this fantastic? I don't want to say incredible, because this is our problem. We believe corruption is part of our society, and it is impossible to resolve that problem. But you know what? It's not impossible. In fact, it's already happening with an organization called Transparency, created by Peter Eigen. Peter Eigen publishes the situation of corruption of corporations and politicians and governments and states. It's all there. It makes us see, it makes people see and believe that corruption can be stopped. But there is more. Banks will be unnecessary, because in this future that I'm seeing, of course there will be bank. But for example, for poor people who have no collaterals, so they will never receive a loan from a bank, there are new things. For example, like Jean-Claude Rodriguez Ferreira did in Barcelona, immigrant people do create little pools of money, and they lend the money each other. So they also do some little money from themselves. And if you scale this, you will have a fantastic organization that works. But there is more. The best education will be free. And this is not only radical, it's already true, thanks to the internet and beautiful platforms to learn the basics of education and the basic skills to get a job, like Allison, created by Mike Fierick, one of the most important worldwide platforms to learn online. It's not only beautiful, it works, and it is for free. Allison, but there is more. Children will be taken seriously, because you guys, did you ask yourself when it is the minimum age that we should have to change the world? How old should we be? What's the minimum age to look around you, become in contact with the suffering, and do something? Because I say there is no minimum age, and now we are trying to understand this. You know, Martha Payne, who is 9 years old from Scotland, is one of the many children and teenagers that come in contact with the suffering, and they want to do something. You know, she started with a blog about the lunches at her school, which were pretty terrible. 2 little portions, no nutrition. And then when she had thousands of followers, she saw that she could attract the attention, and she started to collect money to send food to people that really have nothing to eat. And then, finally, in the future that I see, there will be a topic that we will learn at school that will make us the richest people in the planet. And it's not computer science, it's not engineering, and it's not Chinese. You know what that is? Empathy. Because it's more important to read the emotions in the face of another person than to read Latin. Well, Latin is very important. But empathy is important too. Because if we learn to read the emotions in the face of other people, violence in the schools will not happen. Bullying in the schools will not happen. And violence will be prevented forever. And there is this woman, you know, a Canadian again, Mary Gordon, who is teaching empathy in school. And how does she do it? She brings babies in the classroom. Because, you know, a baby cannot speak. So you need to learn to identify their emotions, their moment of sadness. What do they want? Do they want to eat? Do they want to sleep? And is this attention to the other person and this new language that is already taught in the schools? Because this is not radical. This is already happening. So, who are these people I am speaking about? Who are they? They are citizens, and they are social entrepreneurs. They are entrepreneurs, which means that they fight till they get what they want, And also, they don't take a no for an answer, but they're social. It means that they will measure their success in the number of lives and social problems that they will be able to resolve. And you know, there is nothing stronger than a good idea in the hands of an entrepreneur. So these guys are the future spoilers. Because if you look at what they are doing today, you can see the world that you have tomorrow, because this innovation will become mainstream and your children will enjoy them. So, dear people of Romania, do find, support, connect, and finance your social entrepreneurs. Because if you do, I can see your future. And I tell you, it's pretty amazing. Thank you so much.